Recorded. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome. Thank you again for joining tonight's webinar. In the webinar series, Getting to Know EU. So my name is Chris Binder, first year admission counselor here at Elmhurst, also Elmhurst alumni. I just graduated this past spring. So I am joined here with a very special guest, Zach Norman. So he is a current student athlete. And what we're talking about tonight is just kind of, the life of a student athlete, what it looks like. We can answer any questions that you might have about, the recruiting process, or maybe how to get recruited, or, we can talk about where you're at in the process. So I have just kind of a brief presentation to give an overview of what athletics looks like at the college level. We're going to hear from Zach. He's going to tell us more about his experience, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions and just kind of like a Q&A. But feel free, whatever you're comfortable with, cameras on, cameras off. And then, if you want to drop stuff in the chat, you can unmute yourself when it comes time for questions, whatever's easiest for you. But thanks again for hopping on. So I'm going to pull the presentation up. And can we all see that?
Yeah, we can see it, Chris.
Okay, cool. So before I hop into the presentation, Zach, our special guest, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people?
All right, my name is Zach Norman. I'm a sophomore here at Elmhurst. I'm from Des Plaines, Illinois, probably about 20 minutes away from here. I went to Maine West High School. I do play football, and I'm a running back here, so it's a good opportunity to run the ball here, which is awesome. Otherwise, yeah.
For sure. And I was actually teammates with Zach last year. So I was a 4-year football athlete too, student athlete in my time at Elmhurst. So I got to know Zach pretty well, which is pretty cool to see things come full circle here. So all right, without further ado, we'll get rolling. All right, so a little bit about Division III athletics and just kind of where we stand and just kind of what that looks like. So the NCAA is broken up into 3 divisions, right? 1, 2, and 3. So we fall into the Division III category. It was established in 1973. There are about 440 schools nationwide that participate and that are in the Division III conference of the NCAA. There are 28 national titles and championships that different sports will compete for. And just kind of the motto and the emphasis for Division III athletics is academics being first. So you see there in the photo, discover, develop, dedicate. A lot of Division III athletes really dedicate their time and their focus not only to their sport, but also to, the academic realm and life after, graduation. So getting a little bit more close to home here. So at Elmhurst, these are the different sports that we offer. So the men's and women's sports here are going to be listed on the left-hand side. And then the men's and women's specific sports are there on the right-hand side. So we have a really wide variety of sports to choose from when it comes to competing, at the college level at Elmhurst specifically. Zach and I both played football, have several friends and peers who were on baseball and wrestling and women's basketball. So you really have a wide variety to choose from. And the nice thing is that at the Division III level, you don't have to choose one. If you're a multi-sport athlete right now at your high school, it is most definitely something that you can explore at the college level. A lot of football players will actually compete in track and field. So just something to think about and something we can talk about more when the time comes. So the conference that we compete in, right? So we compete in the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin. It's called the CCIW. It is a very competitive conference, one of the more competitive conferences in Division III athletics. So across all sports, you're going to find great competition, and you're really going to be able to compete with people at a high level, which is fantastic. So there are several teams, that are in our division. There's 10 of us total. Some common ones that are local are, Wheaton, North Central, North Park University. And then we also compete against schools all the way up in Wisconsin. So like Carthage, Carroll University and Washington University St. Louis recently joined our conference about 2 years ago. They're down in St. Louis, in the St. Louis area. So that's really the furthest, that you will travel for a conference competition. Right. So the recruiting process. So what does it look like? Some of you may be going through it right now. Some of you may be at the beginning or the end, but this is just kind of a general overview. Zach obviously more recently experienced the process. I experienced it, about 5 years ago now. But really just kind of how it happens. So it can happen at any point during your high school career, right? A coach can reach out to you. A lot of times coaches will come and visit a high school. So, they have certain high schools that they go to in different areas where they want to meet with, just all athletes that are welcome. So keep an eye out for that. If you notice, ask your head coach of your sport, hey, like, are there any colleges that are coming through, recruiters? And they might share a list of, colleges that are coming through that you can meet with. The fastest way to get on a coach's radar, I would say, is filling out this form. So there's a form on our athletics webpage for each individual sport. So I'm just going to click that link here and show you all just kind of where to go. So like I said, for each sport, you can go to, this page and you can find the sport that you want to fill out a form for. So just go up here to sports. Let's say you are a men's baseball. So you're going to click on that page. And then you're going to go over here to more. And at the bottom of that drop down, you should see recruitment form. So when you click on recruitment form, what that does is that you can fill out your information there and give us your contact info, and you will then get flagged in our system. You can put down your position, your stats, and then a coach will reach out to you, or a counselor will reach out to you, and maybe go from there. Start a conversation, get to know you better, all that fun stuff. So that's a little bit about the recruiting process. So kind of as you go through the process, right, you'll find yourself exploring different options. Maybe Elmhurst is for you, right? You decide you want to come to Elmhurst. So kind of what does that commitment look like, right? So all of our commitments at the Division III level are non-binding. So they are all simply verbal commitments, and you can communicate with your recruiting coach if you would like to commit to Elmhurst. So all that really means is that you are deciding, yes, like, I want to come to Elmhurst. And then you would go through the enrollment process. So making sure that we have all the information we need from like an application standpoint, making sure we have all of your materials, your transcripts from, high school, a test score or an essay. And we have a counselor assigned specifically to athletics to work with our students, our student athletes. His name is Nick Barnhill. I can provide his information here at the end for you all. But his job is just to recruit and work with our student athletes. So that's a little bit about the process. Some schools will do like a signing day. So if you, start seeing on social media, I know this was popular when I was, in high school, there were signing days, and you would have, a hoodie or maybe a polo of the school you're going to. And you would take a photo with the AD and your head coach, and you would sign a piece of paper. I would ask your coaches or your athletic director, what does signing day look like? Typically, I think it's May 1st for fall sports. So, if that's something you're interested in and participating with, definitely reach out to your coaches at your high school. All right. So the general schedule of a student athlete, right? So you kind of go through these different seasons of your sport, right? So depending on when your sport competes, when your in-season play is. So for Zach right now, he's in season, right? There is a preseason, there's your season, postseason, and off season. So you are doing something for your sport at the college level pretty much year round. I would say you're always training, right? There are time periods right after, the season happens where you do get time off, and coaches aren't allowed to have communication with players. But you're pretty much always working, to be ready for the season. So how preseason works for fall sports, they show up on campus. about a week or 2 weeks before everybody else. They have a camp, right? So they'll have a fall camp, get ready for their season, get to hit the ground rolling come September, compete all the way through November. Then they'll have a small break, a couple weeks. Then they'll have their postseason. You'll start doing different workouts. Then you'll kind of get in the groove of off-season workouts. So really training and preparing. A lot of sports will have kind of an alternate season, maybe like a spring ball, right, for football, or for baseball, they have fall ball. So they'll have a certain amount of practices that they can compete in and have just player, organized or with their coaches to be able to continue to develop their skills and get ready for, the upcoming year and the upcoming season. So that's just kind of a general overview. So I wanted to include some photos of facilities here. Some of you may or may not have been to campus. Highly recommend coming to campus, checking out the facilities. They look a lot better in person, I'll be honest. So we actually just had a brand new renovation in our gymnasium this past summer. So we put in this brand new 2-lane indoor track that you can see here in this top right photo. Totally renovated the basketball floor. So my basketball players out there, it's a fresh court. It's a brand new court for you. Same with volleyball, anybody who's going to be competing here. And then we put in this nice little side gym area. We use this space a lot. This past winter, Zach will remember waking up at 5 a.m., going to the gym and doing our morning workouts in here. So we would use that space a lot. And then we have our turf playing surface out here on the bottom left-hand side. So men's and women's soccer, lacrosse, football, of course, will compete out there on that surface. And then our track was recently renovated also and repainted, so we can now host, different events and meets. Before, our track wasn't eligible to be able to host those types of competitive events. So with those new renovations, we're able to finally have, some home meets, which is great. And this is the most recent photo of our weight room I could find in the bottom right. It actually looks it looks newer than this photo. So the platforms that you see there, I think that might be Logan, one of our other teammates. But we have brand new platforms that have like a big Blue Jay logo on them, with all brand new barbells. We have brand new weights. So the plates that you see there, we have brand new ones. We just got brand new dumbbells, free weights, and the space here is a lot more spacious. We have different boxes. We have another level upstairs that is going to be used for a lot of cardio equipment. We have treadmills, ellipticals, pretty much more machines up there for not only our athletes, but also, our students who just want to, use our facilities. So highly recommend, come check them out. It helps you just get a really good feel for kind of what it looks like. Also, our athletic training room is going to be located right next to the gymnasium or the weight room. It's all in the same building. And our AT staff is there pretty much, as long as sports are competing, they're there. So 6 a.m. pretty much until, 6, 7 at night. They're there, their doors open. You can walk right in if you're an athlete and you can get whatever treatment you need. And obviously they'll be at the different practices, things like that. All right. So now I just kind of want to pass things over to Zach, right? And just kind of hear from him firsthand about what a day in the life kind of looks like, right? So he lives it and he breathes it every single day. So he's the best person to hear from about just what it's like being a student athlete, right? Not only at the college level, but also, at Elmhurst. So Zach, feel free to just kind of share just what a day in the life is like for you.
Awesome. So a day in the life, it's pretty difficult. Like waking up for whatever time lift you put in. You can either have a 6 a.m. lift, you can have a 7 a.m. lift or an 8 a.m. lift. But I got lucky to have a 1 p.m. lift. So I wake up throughout my day, like go to my class, and then we have meetings in protected hours for football, which is 11:45 to 12:45. So protected hour is when there's no classes. That's when you can either grab a bite of food or you go to your meeting for whatever sport you have. And so throughout that, you can watch film, you can go through plays, go through whatever you need to for that sport, which is football. And then you go to what I do is I go to my lift from 1 to like 2. And then you get a break after that 2 p.m. lift to get a bite before practice, which usually starts at 3:45 to about 6-ish, 5:45, 6. And then head to the locker room. And after that time, the time's free to do whatever you need to do. Either you have a night class or you study and do homework, and then you get a good bite of food with the roost, which is good after a good practice. Otherwise, yeah, it's jam-packed especially with meetings and lifts. So it keeps you on your toes, which is good, which I like about football. So,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thanks for sharing. And Zach, what do off days maybe look like, or how do coaches schedule in time off?
So off days for us for football is Mondays, which we call as an academic day because we are student athletes. So becoming students first. And so that day is usually nothing, no lifts, no meetings, no practice. So you have your classes, which I have 3 on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So crank those out. And then that's the time where you have to focus on assignments for the upcoming week or even for the next day, which I take advantage of for sure. And maybe put a nap in or 2, which is very much needed.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, naps are big.
very-
You may not nap now in high school, but I'll tell you what, when you get to college, you will probably start taking some naps. Even 20 minutes honestly goes a long way.
it
Um,
does.
but yeah, Zach, thank you for sharing that.
Cool.
So some things that Zach talked about, right, was it's difficult, right? It's not easy. If playing athletics or participating in athletics at the college level was easy, everybody would do it, right? And I'll be honest, it's easy to do it for maybe 1 year, but to do it all 4 years it's a big accomplishment. And even just to get to the next level is an accomplishment, or to even be thinking about it is an accomplishment in itself. So I commend and applaud all of you for joining tonight and exploring what it would look like to play at the next level. It's a decision that I kind of made. I was going back and forth on it, but it's one that I definitely don't regret. And I made lifelong friends, and the relationships that you make are truly priceless. So what we kind of gathered from Zach is, right, it's kind of tough, right? So if we value being a student first so much, what resources and support do we have in place for you, right, as a student athlete, student being first? So almost every sports team is going to have some sort of study table component built into the schedule. So a lot of freshman students and students who are struggling, maybe academically, have a certain GPA, they'll be required to attend study table or maybe to go clock hours at the library, a certain amount of hours a week. So Zach, what is it for football now? What does that look like?
I know RJ's at it right now. I think it's 8 hours. It's 8 hours a week. Yeah, 8 hours a week from 6 to 10, every day, besides Friday and Saturday. Yeah, so you can do it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Got to get 8 hours in. So
yeah, and there's an upperclassman or some sort of student worker in there, checking you in, making sure that you're getting your hours in. And then every sports team is going to do that a little bit differently. That's just the way the football team does it. Soccer might do it one way, lacrosse might do it another way. But basically having this component of academics first, setting aside time to work on your studies. Also, a lot of coaches and a lot of teams will have just kind of check-ins. So something that we did in my sophomore year was every position group had to turn in their syllabus to the position coach, right? Turn in the syllabi, and it was the position coach's job to check in with us, every couple of weeks, how our class is going. Do you need any support? Are you struggling? And each team has some sort of academic liaison. a coach that is academic liaison, and they get reports back from academics, letting them know like, hey, there's a student who's falling behind. Teachers can oftentimes email professors, coaches, and maybe say, hey, like, your student is, or your student athlete struggling in this class, maybe recommend getting them to the learning center. There is a lot of communication that goes on between the faculty and the coaches, which I think is fantastic, because at the end of the day, right, we're trying to help our student athletes be as successful in life as they can. At the bottom of the screen here, 4 for 40, right? You go to college for 4 years to set yourself up for the next 40 years of your life. So that's a serious investment that you're making, right? And getting to play sports and do what you love along the way is a privilege. But we want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in the classroom. So let's talk a little bit more about these academic supports and these resources that you have. So I mentioned the Learning Center. The Learning Center is a place for students to go to receive free tutoring, both peer-led and faculty-led. So there are teachers, and there are also advisors and student workers who work in the Learning Center to provide that component of academic support for our students. So they take walk-in appointments, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. They have some evening hours. They're located in the library, and it's totally free for students to utilize. So they have a writing center where you can bring different papers. You can talk about formatting, really ask any questions you need with that. So on top of that, we have the Center for Professional Excellence. So they actually just had a really cool event. I think it was last night, where they invited some representatives from, I think, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Red Sox, and they had a couple other, professional teams out there. I think the Chicago Fire were there. But basically, they invited these reps to campus, and it was hosted by this office. And our students, not only student athletes, could go and meet with these representatives to talk about different job opportunities. There was just a lot of really great opportunities for people to kind of get access to those resources. And this office will help you do that in so many other realms, so many other fields, whatever career paths interest you. They will help you and help guide you kind of through that. They can do job shadows. They can do interview practice. They have a career closet if you need, clothes to go and interview. Maybe you live out of state, you forgot your dress clothes. They have all of those resources and tools. They'll help with resume building. Building a resume is something that's kind of tough. I'll be honest, I didn't learn how to properly build a resume till I got to college. So they have all of these different tools and can help our students develop pre-professionally. So on top of that, right, not only do academics come first, but you can't play your sport if you don't have a 2.0 GPA or higher. So being eligible, right, is something that is super, super important. And your coaches, right, they want you to be able to play and to be able to compete and be able to help the team. So making sure you're eligible is super, super important. All right. So time management, right? This is a big skill that maybe you practice right now, as a high school student. Maybe you are working on it. That's okay. I think there are so many different ways to develop time management, especially when you get to college. So being a student athlete, right, you're on a schedule. Zach talked about his day to day. It sounds like, he's got something going on pretty much every hour of the day. And then he has to pencil in time to do homework and also to maybe, see his friends or spend time with his family, maybe call his parents. So learning how to manage and budget your time is only going to help you in the future. Not only as, an athlete, but as a student and as a person and pre-professional. So just some big tools that I want to recommend to you all. Using a planner, number one, is huge. Keeping track of your assignments, keeping track of what you have to do on a daily basis using to-do lists. You can do this in so many ways. You can do this on a piece of paper. You can do this, on your laptop. You can really make it and use whatever formats are easiest for you. Also having some sort of calendar, right? So knowing when you have practice, when you have class, And physically writing it out or putting it into, an Outlook calendar or a Google calendar is going to help you visually see where you need to be and when you need to be there. And it also helps you know how much time you have to get there. So if you have, a break before practice, maybe you pencil in lunch, so you're not just, sleeping in your room and all of a sudden it's 4 o'clock and you got to be in the locker room out on the field. Now you're late to practice. And being late to any athletic event comes with consequences. So um, every team does something different, but we really want to focus on, having students be disciplined and having athletes be disciplined. Um, Another huge thing is just communication. So if you find yourself, right, maybe you are running late, maybe, you slept in on accident, right, and couldn't make it to lift on time. Um, no matter what, as soon as, whatever happens, texting your coach, calling your coach, being transparent. You might still get in trouble. You might still have to run, right? That's okay. But having that open communication is going to just help you in the long run. And your coach is going to appreciate it even more so if you come to them and you're the first person to tell them rather than them finding out from someone else. So, um, Zach, what are some ways that you practice time management as a student athlete?
Alarms, a lot of alarms. I set my phone to certain alarms, like set an hour for this study period, like 6:30 to 7:30 right after practice, study for anatomy, and then 7:30 to 8:30 study for like religion for an upcoming tests. I do have a planner, which is very, very helpful. Um, write everything down, write my class, write what assignments I need to do, what needs to be done for upcoming weeks. Um, the syllabuses that professors give you have everything for the upcoming. So fill that out, have a quiz next week, an exam a couple weeks, which always helpful, keeps you up to date with everything, which helps a lot for me as a student. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. For sure. Whatever methods are easiest for you, I think is super important. Just to practice. So now I kind of want to go back a little bit to the recruiting piece. Um, Zach, would you mind sharing a little bit about your experience being recruited out of high school to come to Elmhurst? Maybe why did you decide to come to Elmhurst? And maybe what other schools were you kind of thinking about going to or playing at?
Yeah, of course. So Maine West, um, I was a first year starter as a senior, only a senior. So I didn't really think about like playing college football. I was like, okay, like my career is over with at high school. And I guess one of the coaches at Elmhurst saw my film and reached out to me and was like, hey, you want to play football? And I didn't even think of it at first. I thought I was just going to go to community college, which was Oakton over by where I live. And took a visit, an overnight visit, which was awesome. And was able to see what the dorms are like, see how the field and all the facilities around it, which I fell in love with like right away. I didn't really go to any other schools, which I had my eyes set with Elmhurst. It was like it's 20 minutes away, and it's something that it's quick for my family to either they need to drop off something or want to see a game. And I think what else? It was smooth. Like the recruiting process was really smooth. All the coaches were there. It felt like this was like school to go to, and I did not regret my decision at all. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually remember meeting Zach on his overnight visit. He was staying with some of my teammates, and he came by, my room. I was living with some football guys, and he told me, his running back and where he's from, and just kind of like,
Your audio is cutting out.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. But really what matters is that fit, right? So finding a place where you feel comfortable, right? Like you can make connections and sincere relationships with the people and the players there, right? So when you take your visits and when you come to Elmhurst, ask to speak to the students and the student athletes. Um, that's who you're going to be spending your time with, right? Majority of your time, right? When you play a sport, you spend a lot of time with your teammates. So it's important that you like the people that you're with and that you feel comfortable, hanging out with them and spending time with them. So I think that is what sold me on Elmhurst, is the people and the relationships, and the upperclassmen at the time were welcoming, and we have a zero hazing policy. So as a first year student, there's no sense of hazing that goes on. There's zero tolerance for that, and our coaches do a great job of making that clear. But yeah, that's what is important, I think, as a recruit. So I guess at this time, what we can do is open it up to questions, or concerns, any comments. Feel free to put them in the chat or just unmute yourself, whatever is easiest for you.
Hi. Okay, so I'm Mandy. From Miami, Florida. Just a little background on me. Um, so I've actually been speaking to Coach Hall from the volleyball program in the last few weeks. And she's been speaking to me about obviously like what makes Elmhurst so special. She's obviously trying to sell me on that, and um, obviously definitely suggested that I come here and speak to you about the recruiting process and all of that. Um, I kind of really wanted to ask. Um, how is Hearst kind of working around COVID? Because I know that's kind of a big thing now. Um, I did speak to Coach Hall about it, and like obviously when they were playing during the spring last year, it was a lot of getting tested, but I'm not sure how like it's working around this season.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. So I can answer just kind of what I know off the top of my head. There is going to be another webinar for athletics, where our athletic director is going to be present. So that might be a good one to get some more extensive detail. But I know that as an institution, right, we're requiring students to get vaccinated or either submit a exemption. We're accepting both religious and medical exemptions. So students who are vaccinated do not have to do any sort of testing, at all. And if you are a student who has an exemption, when you are in season as an athlete, you are required to test 3 times a week. And when you are not in season, it is just once a week. So as far as testing and vaccines, that's really the extent there. I know that when it comes to being indoors, all across campus, we are requiring masks no matter what your vaccine status is. I don't know what that looks like for volleyball when they're practicing. Um, I don't want to say like they can take their masks off or they can't. I'm sure Coach Hall could definitely answer that for you. I know for football, last year we had like a shield over our helmet, but now Zach can attest, since you're outdoors, there's no sort of shield or covering that they have to wear. Contact is full go. Indoor sports like basketball, volleyball, obviously you get less than 6 feet than to each other. Like that's totally fine. There's no parameters around that. And I know with our facilities, like our weight room and like our training facilities, we do require masks in those areas. And then we have student workers who will, wipe down those spaces and stuff. So that's just kind of generally just an overview of what COVID stuff is looking like with athletics. Definitely recommend asking Coach Hall like the volleyball specific questions and joining us for that webinar with our AD, and he'll be able to really answer just like the detailed questions with that stuff.
Yeah, and then also like another question, obviously after speaking with obviously Coach Hall and some of the girls, they've told me all about how close the volleyball team is, but I kind of really wanted to know also like just how interconnected are like the other sports teams, like how close are they to like each other and like just the different seasons and everything.
Yeah, Zach, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so they're beginning of the season we have, I forgot what it's called, but like a field day. it's called a SAC event, where all the teams get onto the field, the football field, and play games. Spike ball, we did wiffle ball, there was kickball. There's a bunch of stuff where like everybody's able to mingle around with certain teams, and I personally thought it was a great experience meeting other people, meeting baseball guys, meeting a bunch of other people that you didn't know at first, and now you get to know. And who knows, you could go to a football game or you could go to a baseball game and watch them, which I think is a great way to get all the teams together, which always happens, which I really like. So yeah.
Yeah, I will say too, in my time as a student athlete, there's a lot of support from just like across, athletic competition. So during basketball season, the men's football team, right, shows up for the men's and the women's games, and the men's basketball team shows up for the women's games, and vice versa. Being that it is a smaller school, it really allows you to create those relationships with your peers, especially your peer student athletes. So there is definitely a community that exists within the student athlete realm, and it is strong, and it is really cool to see, the athletes hanging out together. So there is a really good sense of community there. Good question. Other questions?
Actually, I had another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of also, yeah, like relating to my school right now, we are a very small school and very interconnected in our sports. But also just you mentioned that obviously some athletes play multiple sports at Elmhurst. I actually play in all 3 sports seasons at my school, and I am unsure like if I like going into college. Actually, I was being recruited by Emory a few months ago, and they kind of like shut the door on like, yeah, I don't think you can play more than one sport. But like you guys are saying, oh no, we kind of actually encourage it. I kind of wanted to ask like, how does that work with like the different sports seasons and like several athletes doing multiple sports?
Yeah, so perfect example. One of my classmates last year, her name was Mia Reese, and she just graduated. She was a dual sport athlete. She played women's basketball and also women's softball. So as long as the sport isn't in the same season, it's doable, I would say. So if you're in 3 sports, and as long as all 3 coaches, are aware that you're going to be training, for each sport, and you're going to maybe there's going to be some overlap, with practices and whatnot. As long as you communicate with everyone, and you communicate with those individual coaches, I don't see, any issue. If you don't mind me asking, what 3 sports do you play right now?
So I play volleyball, basketball, and track and field. I'm a high jumper in track and field.
Okay, cool. I feel like that would definitely be doable. Um, just because we've seen basketball and softball, I don't think volleyball and basketball would be an issue. And I know our track and field programs, the coaches are very, very flexible with our student athletes. So if you have, a basketball game, or they'll save your legs for, a competition, they'll work with you to make sure that you're, feeling confident and comfortable to compete, and you're, at your best for what you need to be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions from anybody?
Hey, yeah. My name is George Pavlenko, and I go to Sandburg. It's like 40 minutes away from Elmhurst. I don't know if you know where that is. I do wrestling for my school, and so I was talking with Coach Marinetti for wrestling, and he told me to apply to Elmhurst because we already had like that verbal talk and everything. And I was wondering, when will I get like my results for if I do early application?
Yeah, great question. So if you apply before November 1st, that's considered the early action deadline. You will have your decision by December 1st. So that's when you'll receive your acceptance letter. And as long as you have your FAFSA submitted, FAFSA opens up October 1st. we can get you your financial aid package by December 1st too. So you'll know how much you're paying, and you'll know your acceptance and your scholarships all by December 1st, as long as you get all that into us. So George, it sounds like you've already applied.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So the next thing I would say is just once FAFSA opens up October 1st, work with your family to get that done so that you'll know, your additional scholarship and aid that you'll be getting. That way, come December 1, you'll have all your information you need. Our counselor, Nick Barnhill, he's in charge of athletics. He'll sit down with you. He'll break down the cost for you, kind of show you the numbers, show you what you'll be paying. And then from there, he'll work with you to figure out, what the best situation is for you.
Okay, awesome.
And
Thank you.
that goes for everyone in here. So if you're currently a senior, you apply before November 1st, you get an additional scholarship too. You get an extra $500 for that early action scholarship. So that doesn't mean you have to decide or commit to Elmhurst. It just means you have to have that application in. So highly recommend doing that. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking of applying early action. So how does that work? Like, so you apply early action and then like an extra scholarship is like awarded to you. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So as long as your scholarship, or I'm sorry, as long as your application is dated, like the submission is dated before November 1st, I think it's like 11:59 on November 1st. As long as you do it before then you will be added, that $500 will be added in scholarship to you. So it's not like a here's $500 cash. It's kind of like a here's a $500 scholarship that will kind of come off the top of your cost to attend. So either way, you're receiving, free money just for getting the app in before November 1. So good question.
Another quick question. Do you guys have different tuition rates for in-state or out-of-state, or are they like the same? Or
Yeah, George, great question. So tuition is a flat rate, right? It's the same for everybody, in-state or out-of-state. However, we do offer an out-of-state scholarship for out-of-state students. So Amanda, you will get an extra scholarship because you're an out-of-state student. I believe it's an extra $1,000 or $2,000 for being an out-of-state resident. So perks of living in Florida, right? One of the many perks.
It's also warm here.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Very
it's
nice
also
and
like
warm
really
over
warm
the
all year
winter.
round, which is pretty cool. I do want to acknowledge Javier's question here. Do I need to be registered with NCAA Eligibility Center? Javier, if you don't mind explaining a little bit more about what that is, I don't think I've heard of that before. Feel free to
Yeah, I've seen it on like the recruiting accounts, like to verify myself on NCAA eligibility centers, and I just don't know if it's a requirement or I should do it.
Yeah. I mean, Zach, does that sound like anything that you kind of were aware of when you were going through the recruiting process with the NCAA website?
No, not that I can recall. I mean,
Mhm.
I just submitted my grades, submitted classes I took and everything. And as far as that NCAA, nothing really getting.
Mhm.
I believe that program is only for Division 1 and 2 schools. Like I've also heard about it because my aunt, she's a college counselor at a high school, and she's been telling me about like how she's had students have to like do that whole account. It's kind of just like, I don't know, it's like a program where you state all of your information for like an eligibility, basically putting all of your grades, all of your courses, kind of just like another type of like application, I guess. Like you put all of your information there so that schools or potential schools can see you. And at the same time, it also helps the schools that are already watching you get all of your information quickly.
Sounds kind of like the Common App, but for like athletics.
Yeah, that's basically like the basis of it. It's another type
Mhm.
of common app, but for like athletics.
Got you. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's nothing, we don't really do that at the Division three level. So all you have to do is really fill out a form, talk to a coach, get the application in, and then go from there. Good question though.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I know I've been speaking a lot.
That's okay.
But actually I wanted to ask something kind of general to like basically anyone here, just because my school has something called the senior project, which is basically just where a senior conducts a research project in order to graduate. And so my project is based on like how COVID has affected the mental health of athletes. And I kind of wanted to ask, like, in what ways has like the pandemic affected like you and other athletes like on campus? Because I mean, you just said that you graduated last year, so you're part of the group affected most probably by the pandemic. So I wanted to ask just kind of in general if anyone really wants to answer.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really cool. That's a cool project that you have to do to graduate. That's a cool topic too. I think for a lot of seniors last year, like myself, one of the biggest things that we lacked was any sort of closure. Right. So a lot of fall sports, right, they got bumped to spring, and then some of those fall sports competed and some didn't. Like last year, we had, 3 games that we played in that were exhibition, didn't really matter for much other than just like playing football, which was some closure for me personally as a graduating senior. Um, but I have a buddy who plays Division One, or who played Division One football at University of Dayton in Ohio, and they didn't have any season at all. So his senior year just totally got taken away from him, and he said that like that really affected him, and he didn't get that closure and that kind of like passing of the baton and moving on piece, which was kind of hard for him. So they petitioned and talked to their AD about ways that they can kind of be honored and recognized as seniors. But that was something tough. I don't know, Zach. Do you feel any sort of repercussions?
Um, yeah, with COVID, it was a whirlwind, that's for sure, with limited amount of practices, like not being able to practice, like, oh, can't go to practice today, or we're off for 2 weeks. Like, it was on and off, and it messed with everybody. It didn't put me in a football mindset, which every fall there's always like that mindset where like you're ready for football, you watch football, you do fantasy football, you do everything football. And with COVID, it messed everything up. And especially with closure for seniors, which for Chris, for me, I was able to get lucky being a freshman. It was definitely obscure and different. Otherwise, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of get that because at the same time, like obviously I'm a senior right now, but for me the biggest thing was just when the pandemic happened, I was 16, and 16s in volleyball, when you play club, it's the most important year for recruiting, and having to lose that, like that kind of made me a little disheartened, just because that was the year for recruiting. That was a little something, but I I'm glad that like even through the pandemic, like coaches have reached out to me and have been able to speak to me, even though like we have like this whole barrier between us.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Appreciate you sharing that. Um, I do want to recognize time. We are kind of coming to our close here. I know some people have dipped out, but I just want to point out I just put the contact information of our athletic recruiting counselor. His name is Nick Barnhill. Really good guy. Works across the way from me. He is a previous college athlete. He played Division three baseball at a school up here in Chicago, so he knows what it's like to be an athlete, but he's going to be the guy that reads your applications, that works with you through the process. in combination with whatever coach of the sport that you are being recruited for. So he's a good guy to know. Take that email down, kind of keep it in your back pocket there. But are there any other questions before we kind of wrap up for the evening? George, did you say you go to Carl Sandburg High School?
Yeah, I go to Carl Sandburg. Yeah.
Yeah, in Orland. Go Eagles, right?
Sir.
I went to Providence Catholic, so I'm actually from out that way.
Yeah, you weren't that far.
Yeah, not too far, but cool, good stuff. Well, thank you all for taking time tonight, for coming out, for joining us. Stay tuned. We have more webinars coming up. We're going to be talking about this series, just different offices on campus, more about the Learning Center, the Center for Professional Excellence. So this is going to be going on all the way through December. We also have an open house coming up this Saturday in person. We have a virtual open house at the end of October. There's a fall caravan where you can drive through campus on Columbus Day. Maybe see me in a squirrel costume. I don't know. It might happen. It might not. But a lot of fun ways to come visit us. Like I said, schedule a tour, schedule a visit, talk to your coach, come out, see campus. We'd love to have you. So if you have any questions, I will put my email in the chat. That's chris.binder@elmhurst.edu. Like I said, Nick's your guy, but I can also answer any questions that you have because I work with the first year students. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you in the future, and have a great night. Thanks for joining us.
See ya. Have a good one.